Oh, dear friends, what a joy. It is a joy. I know we're all consumed by the every little detail that is going on for the preparation of the 12th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. There are many people right now, as we speak, around the nation who are working, packing, getting into their planes, or they're preparing their talks, the final details for whatever they're going to do with the children, the beautiful educational program, and every single detail is being prepared. It's a lot of work, but it's beautiful work. It's the work of the good. If you ask me, is it overwhelming at times? Of course, because we're humans, but that's not a big deal at all. We sleep, recover, right? Hopefully, meditate, do visualizations, breathe in and out, take a shower, and next minute we are okay. And we are also preparing as we speak the teamwork effort of the Federation, the National Day of Spiritism tomorrow, a day, 24 hours of prayers, messages. I will say, to be fair, 23 hours, because the last hour of tomorrow is going to be ours here talking about the countdown for the symposium. Today, we are dedicating to several different aspects because we're only 4 days away of the symposium. And aspects of what's going on and the planning, etc. Plus, one very interesting feature, the opportunity of creating new bonds of friendship, new friends, making new friends. Is it important to make new friends? Oh, yes. Mental health studies have already proved to us that we're better off expanding our circle of friendship, and a circle of friendship that creates new harmony, serenity, and the opportunity of cultivating these immortal feelings. Everything that we're talking about in Spiritism, we're going to carry through immortality. So making friends, as our friend Jonah Rosa says, eternal friends. And that's a big deal, right, Carol Correa? She is here with us as well, and Sunshine. But not only them, and not only you, we have here with us our dear friend, Teresa Castro. We always talk about Teresa. She's always there with us. How are you, Teresa?
Hello, Vanessa, and hello, workers of the Last Hour Online Spiritist Society. Hello. What an honor.
Teresa, you're in Vermont, right?
I am, yep, as we
Physically.
speak. I am 3 inches of snow, and it's about 35 degrees.
Yeah, God bless you. So, but I know your heart is spread out in the spiritist world because you have made so many friends. You have been talking to so many friends, and you often travel to spiritist events, and the symposium is one of the spiritist events that have been in your agenda as well, right?
That's correct. Yes, it is. I went, I'm very new to Spiritism. It's only been 3 years. I came about 3 years this time about this time of the year, 3 years ago. I'd only been going to the Spiritist Center in New York City for maybe a month, not even. And Joao Korngold, who was, the director there, and very friendly, just said to me gently a couple times, you might want to attend the symposium in Stamford, Connecticut. This was in 2015. And I thought, okay, well, why not? And I went. It was $20, whatever, $30. I thought, I was so impressed because, not only it was just so well organized, and it was a nice conference center. I thought $20, I'm going to be going into the basement of a school or something, and it was so well organized. That struck me. And I have to say, I was very new, so I wasn't sensitive enough that when I walked into the lobby, I felt anything. I have to say, honestly, no, I didn't. But I was impressed with the organization. And, given that I didn't know anybody there, nobody, I knew very little about Spiritism at that point. I mean, I had a sense of reincarnation, but I wasn't sure. Maybe I had been a grasshopper before. I didn't really know. So um, I, but people were welcoming. They were warm and welcoming. And so the only one I knew was Wow,
Uh-huh.
Cohengold. And of course, he was the director. He was very busy. He wasn't, looking out for me, but he did see me. He said hello. He introduced me to people. That was very nice. Um, and I did. I started to look at some of the posters, and lo and behold, I met Anna and Maria that are in the Ben Franklin Spiritist Society in
Yeah.
Westboro, Mass, and which is a little closer to my home. And
Oh.
attended one of their. They had like an anniversary party thereafter. So I got to know them a little bit in their group, and so that was my first event. And then I remember Giulio Padvin was a speaker, and he was speaking on kind of like the fluids and I'm thinking this man has how many PhDs? I couldn't understand hardly anything he was talking about. But again, what struck me is I went up and spoke to him, and it was not intimidating. He was very inviting, encouraging. I was like a 5-year-old. Why? And he answered all my questions, and it that impressed me because I thought, wow, I could talk to him just like anybody. um, so people were friendly, yeah, and they wanted, they were very encouraging and ready to explain about Spiritism. I, um, I ended up in one of the breakout sessions. I ended up in, I went to Sandra Doy because I'm a physical therapist, so I was kind of interested in what the medical aspect was. And, I don't remember really anything that was talked about, but I do remember she had us break down into groups, and she gave us little scenarios where we had to say how now I understand it to be, it was talking about fraternal assistance. Then I didn't know
Oh.
anything what was going on. But the interesting thing was, at the end of the whole symposium, I realized the group I was with, these women were all on the board. Like I didn't know who they were at the time. I thought, lucky me. So anyway, what I do remember from that breakout session was the emphasis on the gospel at home.
Mm.
And, so here I'm very new. So I'm like, what is this gospel at home? And, so I got to learn about that and really understood how important that was. And, I kept attending Spiritist functions, right? And I got to know IESS and Gilson and Fred Gouvet, so encouraging of, starting you know, a group in Vermont. And I thought, okay. And I heard how Chico, for 2 years, got it home by himself. And I thought, well, that's Chico. He's the man. But here's what got me. Carol Correa, she told me she did a got it home by herself for 4 years. Well, I'm a little competitive. So I thought, well, if she can do it, I can do it. So I started got it home by myself every Monday, 8 o'clock. I've invited people, and they all say they're interested and they're going to come. They never show up. But, what I got from many of the centers is that this is important to be consistent. So I continue. And I think, when the time is right, Providence will provide. So for now, it's me and the discarnates. But, every Monday we're here.
That's
Um,
beautiful.
yeah. And so back to the 2015, my first symposium. I also, I would say that it it was definitely different to be there and be able to talk firsthand with some of the speakers because they're all, many of them, I saw later on in the centers, but not all. Some came from quite a
Mhm.
distance and I've never seen again. But, uh, you know, like last year, I really wanted to go to the one in Florida. And
Yeah.
I've heard you say, and many others say, when you're called, do something, don't think about it. Well, I hesitated. And so I ended up not going. And I had regrets about that. But I did watch online. And it goes to show that it's not as good. There was interruptions. It dropped
Yeah.
out. So it wasn't as good. But I think it is good that they record it, because it's good to go back and listen, because the first time, so many things you miss, especially,
Mhm.
being new. I don't grasp it all. The other thing that made an impression on me, that very first symposium, was at the end, and I might be wrong about some of these specifics, so correct me, but what I remember is I think Jasara was the president at that time. And she spoke on, and again, I might be wrong how I'm explaining this, but about, either messages that were received, but the importance of bringing spiritualism and spiritism together, of making them unified. And that had an impact on me. Now, at the time, I didn't know really much about spiritism or spiritualism, but I thought, well, I understood that there was a movement, there was a goal, there's a direction, there's a flow of energy. And I've since come to learn a little bit about spiritualism as well.
Yeah.
So, I think yeah. So those were just some of my impressions
That's
of
beautiful.
that first symposium, and I really thought, this year I'm not going to hesitate, and I didn't. I made my plane reservations and got
Good.
on it. So,
Beautiful. The time has come. 3 years is almost magical. If you look at the book Paul and Stephen, and throughout the history of the prophets and ancient times, 3 years is the time in which there is the opportunity of the opening of a new phase. So certainly will be a different experience. And one of the things that is very essential in this symposium, the one this year, I think observing the 12, the first 11 editions, is the maturity. Like when you go to a scientific conference, you people are maturing the studies, they go deeper. It's time also to bring the deeper studies, though also practical tools for people to feel. It's not enough to know, as Jesus said, and sometimes we get caught up in too much knowledge.
hmm.
But as I just read in a book that is yet to be in English, named The Roteiro, probably script or route, I don't know, we'll see. But in a chapter talks about the perispirit, it says to us that you know the elevation of our vibrations is beyond just the intellectual part. So this is a part of the symposium that is not to be missed. The vibrational exchange,
Hmm.
though it's invisible, but it's felt. It's when we ask people, as you said, I think you felt good. It's probably named the organization, but I would probably translate it in something beyond it. It's the heartfelt organization, I think,
Mm.
right? Because you felt welcome, though you didn't know many people yet. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
know you also have some questions, right?
Well, yes, I wanted to ask. So, So who organizes the symposium? Like, is that a group in and of itself, year after year,
Well,
or is it different societies, different centers?
well, as you can see, it's organized by the United States Spiritist Federation. So how does it work?
Oh,
Let's say this: the first three symposia, the one in Baltimore in 2007, the one in 2008, to the one in 2009, was a group of friends with me who were organizing without, because back then we didn't have the federation, we had the council. And they were not on the same page. We had to do on our own. So we organized it nationally, and it took off. After the third edition, the administration of the United States Spiritist Council changed, and they embraced it. They embraced the organization. We passed it on because that was the plan since day one. That the Fed organization, we offered, they didn't want to do it, so we did it ourselves. And then in 2010, it became an organization by the council at the time. Later, it became a federation. It didn't become a federation by name, but there is this national entity that organizes. But how is it organized? Like we used to do from day one. We form a local committee, and the local committee goes and brings the planning of the program, the title, the theme, the whole 9 yards with the local committee. And then the local committee takes care of the actual details. And it has been like this since day one. And this year, we're part of the local committee with Sonia Doi from Maryland and Tanya Schwartz to organize the behind the scenes. But there is a large group involved in everything. But
And they're
usually
from various Spiritist centers.
several Spiritist centers
Oh,
that are
nice.
local. In our
Nice.
case, it's Maryland, D.C., and Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And every year when it goes, like for example, in Connecticut, it was the people in Connecticut, but also the friends from New York and New Jersey also helped. When you go to San Diego, people from San Diego, but then California in itself also.
Right.
Had
And
rest.
so the TriState Federation, that's just a local group to like Connecticut and New York. That's what that TriState Federation, that's what that means?
The TriState Federation is they call it a federation, but it's not a federation. It's not federal. It's a state. It's more like state organization.
Right, but it's
And
just New
they
York
unite.
and Connecticut, so it's more of a
And New
local.
Jersey,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, in New Jersey.
exactly.
Okay.
And
And then,
then Sunshine is asking here, does the federation always organize it also in California next year? Yeah, the federation coordinates the efforts, but the organization is more local, okay? Because it's like we gather together, we discuss, and then the local committee goes and finds the location and this and
right.
that, and then we talk back with the committee. So there is a committee that is formed with the local people, and it's coordinated. But the sponsors are nationwide. The
Okay.
federation doesn't have funds to sponsor the event by itself. Since day one in 2007, all the Spiritist organizations who are willing to help, they put the money in. And this is unforeseen in any country. Not even Brazil. This doesn't happen even in Brazil.
Oh.
Okay?
Well,
Doesn't
so
happen there.
so they don't have symposiums in Brazil? Is that what you're
They
saying?
have the national meeting, which happens every so many years, not every year. And it's usually on the back of the Brazilian Spiritist Federation. They usually have their own funds. They may have other sponsors that join them, but they don't have the same mentality as we have here of Spiritist centers actually joining forces financially to partake. It's a different culture. When we
Okay.
started it in the first symposium, I confess to you, the first symposium came from the symposium is in it was downloaded directly from the mind of Benjamin Franklin. He was the
Oh.
one, he is the coordinator on the behind the scenes with a group of spirits. He's the one that brought, there is a document that he brought to us. I remember I woke up at 4 a.m. and he compiled like 12 pages of rules and regulations for the behind the scenes of the symposium. and we still abide to it. We
Hmm,
still abide
that's
how
very
it should
interesting.
work, etc., etc. So he was the one that suggested in his brilliant mind to. I remember the first year I called every center and said, you want to help, and from there on, it just kept happening. The brilliant mind of these spirits who know best and who are culturally adapted, of course, because they're
Mm.
from the land.
Okay. My other question is, so I noticed for this upcoming symposium, there's the talk, the round table, and the workshops. And I know at the symposium I went to before, there was like the general kind of assembly where everybody is for the talks, and then they have the breakout sessions. So do they always follow that format?
No,
Mm.
one thing that has been happening since day one was the idea of short talks, which also doesn't happen in Brazil or elsewhere. We still have the format of the long talks for many hours,
Oh,
for 2, 3 days. And yeah, from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. for 2, 3 days, which may be beautiful, but we don't think it's gonna work in America as much. So since day one, they suggested that we do shorter talks. It's also a way, as the spirits say, that is to practice objectivity, because the high spirits are very objective and we needed to be more concise. The higher minds, they know how to speak in fewer words.
mm-hmm.
And we can practice it when they tell us, like, for example, in our round table, we have 3 speakers this year. Each one of us has 7 minutes to talk about big
Oh,
topics. But it's like a TED Talk.
oh,
But we started it in 2007 and it has been super successful because it's a practice for us, whomever is on the behind the scenes of it. And it's also good for the public because we don't overwhelm the public. We just give them concise information, concentrated information that hopefully they can revisit with the videos on demand and or they can go to the books and study more and be like a teaser for greater study later. You know what I mean?
sure.
So the format has been improving throughout the years. Every year, like when Tony Schwartz talked to us this year, we finished the program last October, October 2017. Um, we were adjusting several features. Like this year, you cannot see here, but we're gonna have visualizations for the first time.
Awesome.
We're going to have visualizations. On the behind the scenes, we have fraternal counseling for people who are willing to. We have fraternal counselors on call, and they can go to the welcome station and say, I want to talk to a fraternal counselor. And we are already scheduled from different centers nationwide, and we can be there available to talk to people on a private level and offer them some information or guidance in
Right.
uh, in the matters that they're asking us about. So we
Can
adjust the program. It's improving as we go by.
I see. That sounds like it. And how about passes? How do you go about getting passes at the symposium, or is that not available?
Well, since the San Diego mentor Joseph has already brought the information that we should include it.
Good.
And and then we have been working with the federation on how we can implement it at this large event. So I think what we are processing, because it depends on a collective to really envision. I believe it is an important feature to be given, to be offered.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe in it too?
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's an important thing to be implemented, and it may potentially be in the upcoming one. We'll see. It depends on a group of practitioners of different centers throughout our nation, but it's possible.
Okay. So it's not going to be at this upcoming symposium.
I don't think so.
No. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was helpful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and you know about the posters as well, right? You've seen, I don't know, in Connecticut
Oh
because
yes, yes,
yeah,
absolutely, yes. That they do, yes, like they'll have one on obsession or
yeah,
mediumship, and they're all
the poster
yes.
session.
Hmm.
That happened since day one, and the idea that poster session had two reasons for existing. One, to train people so one day they can be speakers. Because by practicing explaining to people about Spiritism in public, they can practice later to be also speakers on stage at the podium. And the other thing is to allow people to ask their questions about specific topics in a one-on-one format. So it's so beautiful. It's so, science is mostly made of poster presentations. When you go to the largest, after cardiology, in this world, there is the neuroscience community. Every year, the neuroscientists around the world gather together here in the US, and we're talking about 35,000 scientists minimum. And the majority of the exchange of the latest findings happen through poster presentations. Science advances in that way, and why can't the Spiritist science also use that format in that fashion as way? You know,
Yes.
makes sense.
Yes, it does, and they were helpful. The posters, especially, as I was so new, it gave like a very simplified explanation.
Exactly. And for you, Teresa, since you got to know of Spiritism and you've got to know of the Spiritist movement, one thing is the teaching, the other is the people, etc. You are
Hmm.
in the United States
Yes.
and you are from the very lands in this life, right? So can you tell us a little bit about how do you feel in regards of the potential of creating new bonds of friendship through the beauty of learning Spiritism?
Well, I really, last week I attend Fred Gouvet's God at Home online, and we talked about corporeal families versus spirit families. And I feel very much so this within whenever I go to spiritist centers and as I'm meeting more people in the movement, this sense of there is definitely a kinship, and it's very different from a blood, my blood tie families. There's this, it's beautiful because I feel like there's this baseline coming from harmony and trying to cooperate versus in so many blood ties there's entanglement and friction and misunderstanding, and so it's kind of there's it's a nice common place to come from in meeting new people and developing a relationship is coming from this positive mindset, and also the just the whole idea of immortality changes the whole picture. Once I accept that I'm immortal, someone else is immortal, the idea that I've got to win out or I've got to win over is thrown out. That no longer exists. The competition, that we're all one and we just need to help each other. So it's a rather beautiful experience, actually. I really haven't met anybody yet I don't like, so which is pretty amazing. um, so uh, yeah, it's just a fascinating. I'm just fascinated with Spiritism, and I'm just so it just so like was right for me. I don't know. I was just sold by it immediately. It just made sense, and I think it's going to grow like rapid fire. I do. I think people are really waiting for this. And so, yeah, I think it will. You know, the
May
world,
I ask you a
people are one of
question?
those. Sure,
May I ask you a question?
sure.
I often heard in the past, and I won't say my opinion now, but people saying, and this is since letters that I have from Chico Xavier Haddad and other people who talk to me. This is not the opinion of Chico Xavier Haddad, but complaints that Haddad had at the time.
Hmm.
And people saying Americans may not be ready for Spiritism. What would you say?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think I don't agree with that. In my everyday life, I work in home care. I go into lots of homes every day, and um, you know, there's not a lot of hope out there for people, and there's a lot of discouragement, and um, I think people are wanting a solution, something that is really tangible, and they don't want to they don't want to listen to evangelists anymore. But something very simple and practical, and I think Spiritism is it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little by slow because we're coming from a lot of dogma and a lot of um, history of um, deception. And so people are a little leery, I think, too, about, oh no, here's another group or whatever. But no, I really disagree with that. I think that, as we know, it's the world is changing into a world of regeneration. And I think, slowly people are coming along with that of they're I think people are tired of being deceived and given hope, um, hopeless promises or empty promises. And so I think
Exactly.
Spiritism is the answer because it's a simple, very practical, something we can use. And I think the beautiful thing that really appealed to me was the freedom from dogma.
Yes.
And yeah, yeah.
There's no imposition. And to tell you that Chico Xavier had that mindset since day one, and his dream was to see Spiritism spread out in the English speaking language of this country. He was the first one who really fought for it. We have
Hmm.
living proof that letters exchanged and people witnessing his efforts to learn English, to bring messages in English, and to come to the United States and make effort to be here, and even paying for books to be published here, paying for his books to be published here. We have the contracts in our hands and the proof that he paid them to publish the books at a time when publishing was a whole nother story. And
Hmm.
particularly, we would say, sincerely, it makes me mad when people say that Americans are not ready. Because if a spiritist says that, I would say you need, as the wife of Jorge Godinho Neri, the president of the Brazilian Spiritist Federation, says, she's so funny. She says, these people may be reading the gospel upside down.
That's great.
But
But
that's the
also,
reality.
I
Yeah.
really think, Vanessa, that many of us agreed to to be reincarnated here for that reason. I think so. We agreed it was our mission that some of us would come back here and not in
Exactly.
Brazil. So I think there we're here. We're here. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not gonna cry. Only God knows I'm holding back the joy of hearing you say this.
You can cry with joy.
You
It's what Virginia
cry.
says, crying with joy.
Cry with joy, exactly. And Sunshine is saying, I don't think it's a question of readiness as much as confusion as Christianity and Jesus easily get thrown into the Bible. So we'll do a program, okay? I promise you guys. I'll bring you and Sunshine back and we'll do a panel here with other friends to discuss this and much more and bring the beauty of this readiness and what we need to do to be more efficient, effective, and encourage the other friends to join forces. For now, as unfortunately we need to wrap up, but we're feeling the joy coming close to the symposium. In the
That's right.
book of King Spring by Emmanuel, I'll just read something here or there. The beauty of it all. He says, chapter 153, let us heed. And I know Carol Correa is saying, I'll cry for you, Vanessa. I know we'll cry together. And he's quoting Mark 120, and immediately he called them. In some circles of Christianity, this passage, referring to the Lord calling the disciples, is simply understood as a call by Christ to the religious ministry. However, we may give to it a broader meaning. In each situation on the way, it is possible to hear the heavenly call. In the home, where difficult problems may arise, and he goes on, talking about friends and children. And he says, wherever we go, Jesus, the silent master, calls us to bear witness to the lesson we have learned. In the smallest experiences, such as at work or play, in the home or out on the street, he is there inviting us to constantly practice the good. In this way, disciples of the gospel find this world to be a sanctuary for their faith, and humankind to be their own family. Thus, by pointing to the Christian norm as inspiration for all our daily chores, let us heed the word of the Lord at every point of the way, seeking to follow him with unwavering faithfulness today and always. How about that? So I would like to ask Teresa to kindly lead us into a prayerful moment for the symposium. Is that okay, Teresa?
I will do my best,
I know you.
Vanessa.
You are already. We'll be
Okay.
with you, okay?
All right. So let us all relax our bodies, allow ourselves to finish this study, breathing in deep, relaxing, feeling ourselves relax into our seats. The body's heavy, we're relaxed. Letting our minds and open our hearts, taking in the messages we received, and getting ourselves ready for our night or our day, wherever we are. We thank the good spirits for their presence this evening with us, for their guidance and direction, especially Master Jesus for our guide. We pray for ongoing direction, continuing to keep an open mind and an open heart to new ideas, new experiences, that we can change and grow. Not only helping our brothers and sisters, but wanting to, having a real desire to be charitable in its full meaning, to help one another without interest, without reward, without strings attached. We develop new friends, and we are grateful. Recognizing the light in each other and carrying it forward. Remembering we are not the light, we are the lantern that shines the light. Helping each other along the path to grow our souls, strengthen our convictions, allowing ourselves to be true expressions of hope, joy, and courage. With that in mind, we ask permission to close our studies for the evening. Looking forward to tomorrow and the upcoming symposium. So be it.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your questions that clarify so many things. But I would like to say to all, as Carol Correa is mentioning here, that Mark Smith is also, as an American, saying that he's ready. I would say it doesn't matter how the good is being organized. We're here at Kardec Radio, and we believe firmly that this is the work of the good. If it is organized by this entity, that entity, or the other, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we join forces. So if people are listening to us, we ask you, it doesn't matter where it comes from. If the Pope Francis is telling us go or not, we need to go because it's the good that needs to be done. I'm just mentioning Pope Francis because everybody adores him, and no matter if they are Catholics or not.
That's
But,
right.
right? So we're saying it doesn't matter. If Divaldo Franco is there, it's not going to be there. If it's organized by this or that, but it's important. The spirits are calling us. Come, friends. It's important to be there, mostly because of the togetherness. You know, one thing that I didn't mention, of these 12 years, this is the first symposium that is going to happen in a venue that is not neutral, religiously speaking. It's the first time that it's going to happen in a venue that is beautiful, modern, but it's a church.
That's right. I noticed that. Yes.
Mhm.
But
It doesn't look like one, but it is. It's an all-embracing one. We found a location. The spirits, though they were the ones who pointed out the direction during our committee. They said to us, "Take a look, go to this one," and it worked. So there is a reason why it has to be in that secluded place for us, especially in this sea. So there are many beautiful features, and especially this year, that is so critical. If people are keeping themselves up to date with the developments of our international politics and economy, all the more we need this togetherness. Do our part. Right,
that's right.
Teresa?
Do the good, do the good, do the good.
Thank you,
Thank
Teresa.
you.
A big hug.
A big hug to you and
Thank
all
you.
of you. Thank you.
And we want you back, and I'm sure they do too. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
So, friends, tomorrow, we are only 4 days away, little less. 3, 2, 1. Come, join us. It's worthwhile. You still have time. Is it far away? I don't think so. Far is a thing of the mind. If you put your mind, it's gonna be just a step away. Come on over and enjoy, because we're counting the days for the 12th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. Thank you, friends, and don't forget, in 15 minutes, our National Day of Spiritism is going to begin at
Mhm.
Kardec Radio. Thank you, and until tomorrow, God willing.